sanctions on oil refineries in India. So this is a full court press. They're putting up pressure on Russia absolutely everywhere. And then it overlaps into the Middle East with Iran, and of course into the Asia Pacific region vis-a-vis China, because this is if you look on a map, you can see how Russia, Iran, and China, it's kind of the heart, the core of Eurasia, and the U.S. is trying to encircle and contain all of this. So there are many, many conflicts. There's many things that we often don't talk about, like the ongoing war in Myanmar, right next door to Thailand, where I am here in Southeast Asia, the military buildup in the Philippines, like the constant agitation against China within their island province of Taiwan by the U.S., who has troops there. So all of these things are meant to put maximum pressure on all three of these countries, everyone in between, and keep them tied down in their respective regions of the globe, and then defeat them in detail. That's this phrase that I keep using: strategic sequencing, division of labor. These are the tools the U.S. is trying to use. The U.S. itself is overextended, and they cannot fight all of these countries at one time. So they're trying to tie them down with the advantages that they have in terms of political interference, tools and methods Russia, China, Iran don't have. And they're trying to defeat each one in detail. So that's what we're watching. And when they get stuck in one area, they go to another area, and then they'll try to go back to another area. That's why you will see some, they're like, well, there's a ceasefire. Trump had a ceasefire with Iran. I mean, as you say, Rashid, it's what are they doing? The three R's: reload, recalibrate, something like that.
Rest, rearm, and recalibrate.
Exactly. So it's, and you have to constantly zoom out and look at all of this as one objective that the U.S. is pursuing, and you have to understand how all of these parts operate together. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep an eye on. It's a lot to wrap your mind around. But once you do, you can't unsee it, and you can see when they make an announcement, you can see almost instantly how it fits into the big picture.
And it seems like they have real designs on Iran. Remember now China ships stuff through Iran now by train. We see Russia and China working on the north-south corridor. Russia and Iran working on the north-south corridor, and China invested in different land routes to bypass the Malacca Straits and all of that stuff. And it seems like that desperation by the U.S. and Israel is setting in because they realize that the jig is up and time is not on their side. I want to play a clip from KJ Noit that I had on the show, and this is what he had to say about the situation with Iran, America, and Israel.
Covering it up lets you know that it's much worse than what is actually revealed.
On that matter, following you up on that, why would Iran go for a ceasefire when they have them on the ropes? Because what the U.S. and Israel and their proxies like to do is rest, rearm, and recalibrate. Even though Iran was taking damage, it was dealing out more damage, and it could have. We saw that the interceptors were almost depleted, and we see that the U.S. and Israel became panicked from the little information that we've gleaned from what happened during the strikes. Why do you think that Iran allowed Israel a breather?
It's a good question, and I think there are arguments for both, right? Whether it should have pressed its advantage. If it did have an advantage, it's possibly very likely. Certainly in terms of attrition, purely in terms of the math, it does have an advantage because, for every missile that Iran shoots, Israel has to send 2 to 10 interceptors. And those interceptors are incredibly expensive. The missiles themselves may not be so expensive. So purely from that standpoint, from a financial, from a bean counting standpoint, Israel was already starting to be depleted and losing the war. Should Iran have pressed its advantage? I think there's an argument that could have been made there, but I think there are many factors involved. I think the fact that the United States was also threatening to get involved, the fact that both that Iran, the United States, and Israel both have nuclear weapons. I think these are important facts. Is it possible for a powerful country to fight two nuclear armed nations at once? I think that sometimes you have to, discretion is the better part of valor. And I think that even inside the situation, remember the US bombed Fordo and other nuclear plants, claimed to have destroyed them completely. But if you look at the Iranian retaliation, it was very, very symbolic and minimal. They did the absolute minimum. They telegraphed what they were going to do, and then they, sent something which was really a symbolic act. The fact that they sent a symbolic gesture signals that probably the damage to Fordo was trivial or only symbolic. Even the U.S. intelligence are saying that it's only put it back a few months, if even that. So I think that the damage of the U.S. attack was insignificant, and therefore Iran felt comfortable making a symbolic gesture back, simply a shot over the bow, not a complete all-out war. And having sent that message, it's looking to see if the ceasefire will hold, because let's get back to it. Ultimately, Iran does not want war, does not want war with the United States, does not want war with Israel. It simply wants to develop peacefully. It has not been an aggressive nation. It fights when it is attacked, but it is not a country that has gone abroad seeking domination and mayhem, as at least for several centuries, as has the Imperial West. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if the ceasefire holds. I think there's a lot of concern that it could just be a ploy, and that's also very likely. But even so, I think that time is on Iran's side, not on Israel or the United States.
So with that said, before you give me your thoughts on it, everybody hit the like button, and if you like the content, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Hey Brian, what is your take on what KJ Noyce said about the situation with the ceasefire in Iran and the Middle East?
KJ does excellent analysis. I agree with almost everything he says on every
Mhm.
topic, and I agree with him on this. And I think another aspect is I think a lot of people vastly overestimate the strength of, say, Russia, China, and Iran, and they vastly underestimate the danger the U.S. and its proxies still pose to the world. And if you're Iran, you didn't want war in the first place. If you have the ability to stop this war, and then again for themselves rebuild what was destroyed, uh, as you say, recalibrate what worked and what didn't work, and by that time that is always working in multipolarism's favor, then that's what you do. And did they have Israel and the U.S. on the ropes? Do you want to put a nation like Israel on the ropes, a nation that is built up and used as a disposable proxy, that has nuclear weapons, and that has been shaped into this villain that the U.S. always is building distance between itself and the Israelis, and you know give them an opportunity to use nuclear weapons? You have to think about all of these things. If you're Iran, they have access to information about their own strength and weaknesses, about what Israel can and cannot do. They're looking at all of these factors together when they make these decisions. So it wasn't just, oh, we think the US will be friends with us. No, I don't think they believe that at all. I think they're just, just like Russia with the Minsk agreements. I don't think that they were tricked into the Minsk agreements. I think they needed time, and they thought that, hey, if we pause this, time's going to work in our favor. Our military will be stronger come 2022 when we launch the special military operation than if we launched it 2014, 2015. They just weren't there. It takes years and years and years to develop the different type of military capabilities we now take for granted that Russia demonstrates on and over the battlefield. So we have to keep all of that in mind. Iran is no exception. Even China is no exception. There are limits to what they can do. And while the US, we talk about American limits all the time, there are still things that the US does very well that makes it persistently dangerous.
Yeah, and also, like you said,
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a